It's about thinking about something that seems impossible and yet figuring out a way to go ahead and do it.
Welcome to a special episode of The Hummingbird. I'm your guest host, Fernando Albertorio. I hope you, our listener, are doing well, staying healthy and safe. In this special series, I'm having conversations with leaders, experts, and advocates within the blind and low vision community to learn about their careers, goals, and accomplishments. We're learning from them how we can successfully live during our new normal with COVID-19. This show is brought to you by Sunu, makers of the Sunu Band Sonar Smartwatch, mobility and navigation tool for those of us who are blind and low vision. Check out Sunu at sunu.com to learn more. I'm here with Dan Berlin. Dan is a successful entrepreneur and co-founder of Team C Possibilities. Dan inspires and empowers young people who are living with sight loss or visually impaired to thrive and excel, and as well as create role models and mentors. Dan is the first blind athlete to run the Grand Canyon and back and forth, as well as the Inca Trail, and most recently completed his biggest challenge yet, climbing to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. That's amazing. Dan, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's great to be with you.
Dan, tell our viewers a little bit more about yourself. You know, you're an athlete, you're an entrepreneur, but if you can dig in a little bit more about your background, please.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I discovered a couple years ago that what I love to do is create things.
Mhm.
So that, when I look back, determined the path of my career and in my work now, what I really love doing. So I started out several years ago working for large international, multinational companies, and quickly determined that what I really liked was working, doing things on my own or creating a new way of doing something out there in the world. So co-founded a company called Rodell about 12 years ago, which was a vanilla extract company. So with that, traveled the world, really got to experience all the different parts of this great world we have and the cultures and where we grow vanilla. Pulled that together into making it into products that we'd buy in the grocery store that we use for baking our cookies. So that was a significant part of my career. And along the way, really realized that I found a love for endurance sports. So after quite a few years as an entrepreneur working, I started working towards co-founding a nonprofit organization geared towards demonstrating ability and taking on just ridiculously hard endurance challenges around the world. And with that, we've turned Team C Possibilities, which is the name of that organization, into a program really focusing on helping young adults moving from post-high school age into the working world through focusing on college education and really enhancing ability, creating environments where they can thrive in their academic and moving into their professional lives as vision impaired students and young adults. So all of that kind of pieced together from the entrepreneurship into a love of endurance sports, and then moving that into something I really truly love doing, and that's helping young adults find their way and create something meaningful.
Wow, this is amazing. So let's take a step back in terms of you know, you're also blind and training to do endurance sports. Let's talk a little bit more about endurance sports because I used to run like a half marathon, and I thought I was like doing something enduring. But when I read about when I was reading your bio and all the chats that we've been having, it's like that's like nothing compared to what you're doing. You know, you've run the Boston Marathon. I think that you've been part of Team with a Vision from NAVI as well. Can we talk about some of the challenges that you faced as an athlete, and what have been some of the amazing like runs or sports that you've done?
Yeah, definitely. Just to step back a little bit. So I was diagnosed with Stargardt's when I was 7 years old. So I
Mhm.
was a second grader. Um, and as a kid that age, what do you do with that news? I was told I would be blind by the time I was in my 20s. And I had a slow progressive vision loss all through my academic years into college and into graduate school. And I never really told anybody. I just faked it more and more and more. But I did play a lot of sports in high school: football, track, a little bit of wrestling. And I found that to be fantastic along the way. And as I got older, and especially as I got more into my career, as my vision loss progressed, I was feeling more and more disabled
Mhm.
and felt like I could do less and less and less of the things I like to do. And I found myself by my mid 30s really getting quite out of shape. I had moved to Colorado at that point from New York City area, lost public transportation, was feeling very dependent
Mhm.
on so many people around me. And I decided one day, it just clicked. Actually, my kids, who are fantastic, were poking a little fun at me about being overweight or a little heftier than I used to be. So I said, well, I can control this. This is one thing that, at least, even though I can't see, I can still get out and run. I'll figure it out. So I took my cane, mapped out a route around the neighborhood, and started running 2 to 3 miles every day. And then from there, it just kept building. I really found a love for endurance sports then in my late 30s into my early 40s. And it had nothing to do with my vision loss. It just had to do with me finding something where I could feel enabled or
Mhm.
able to do something. And that just progressed. It progressed on into marathons and then ultra marathons, and then into some of these just ridiculous endurance challenges like running rim to rim across the Grand Canyon and back.
Okay, let's get the units in terms of perspective here. So, a half marathon is about 13. It's 13.2 miles.
Correct. Or 13.1.
Oh,
Yep.
13.1 miles, right. Now, I've done that. I've done
That's awesome.
the 5K to raise money to help out with Team of the Vision. That's like 3 miles. At my age, I'm like huffing and puffing trying to get through this. Now you're talking full marathon, which everyone's kind of used to hearing, but ultra marathon. What is an ultra marathon?
Yeah. Well, just stepping back, the hardest race I've ever run in my life was the first half marathon I ever did. It was the longest I'd ever run. And literally, that was the hardest race I've ever run in my whole entire life. So we all have to start somewhere.
Now you also mentioned that you ran the Inca Trail.
Yeah. So after running the Grand Canyon, this was done with some friends. And it was that so the Grand Canyon was the start of Team C Possibilities. It was a friend of mine who really wanted to run this, and out of a whim, one day we were doing a triathlon together,
Mhm.
and he just brought it up. He said, "Hey, if you'd be interested, I'd guide you." And I just said, "Sure, let's give it a try." I had never run more than a marathon at that point. This was 20 miles further with 10,000 feet of elevation climbing, and that's how that got started, just by willingness to say yes to something that was exciting and intimidating. And that's where that went. So then from there, we received a lot of very positive media coverage on the Grand Canyon. So took this a little further and said, okay, what else can we do? And that's where we came up with a list of other very cool places all around the world, including the Inca Trail in Peru. So we ran the 26-mile classic Inca Trail, which is normally a 4-day hike, up over 14,000 feet of elevation at some points, ending in Machu Picchu, which was absolutely fantastic. And we did that in a little under 13 hours, all in one day, and ended in Machu Picchu at sunset. As the entire national park had closed, we were just entering, and we had special permission to be there and then to leave after sunset. It's just
Amazing.
incredible.
That's amazing. So you're doing all these challenges, to show and to inspire people that despite of sight loss, despite of blindness, we could still be athletes. We could still do very hard challenges, which are very
Yeah.
intense to begin with, and training wise.
Yeah, and I'm by no means a natural athlete. I say I have more I would call it I have more stubbornness and mental stubbornness than I do physical ability. And it's just about pushing through the things that are tough. But as people who are vision impaired, I mean, we do that all the time. We are always solving problems. We always have to work a little bit harder to get something done. And I found that this is just a way that can allow me to use this in a way that really resonates with other people. So, along with these trips around the world, we always make it a point to speak at schools and organizations in the countries and the areas where we are. The most rewarding part is really talking with so many kids with vision loss, and just being able to share my story and our stories with them, and just see their minds open up to what's possible. And that's where the name comes from, Team C Possibilities. It's about thinking about something that seems impossible and yet figuring out a way to go ahead and do it.
Right. Using your tool sets, using your own abilities, despite your vision loss or your sight loss, to solve, because that makes us unique problem solvers. And
Yeah.
it's about channeling that energy into, being creative and overcoming a hurdle that we have, an opportunity, and turning that into a great opportunity. And speaking about opportunities, and at TNC Possibilities, you also have a scholarship component to it. So it's not just about showing how amazing challenges can be overcome, and then going on tour and talking and inspiring people, and that's wonderful stuff that you're doing. It's also a kind of more on the ground component, where you're activating kids or students, right?
Yeah, definitely. One of our key passions is about empowering ability.
Hmm.
And with my own lived experience with vision loss, it's an area where I think we can make the maximum amount of difference. Really focusing on young adults who have the will and determination to succeed in college or university or post-secondary education. It could be in any type of field, post-secondary education wise. And it's really about creating role models for the community of success in diverse fields of study. And that's very similar to what we do on these epic endurance challenges. The challenge of leaving home, going to college, spending 4 years at a university, and being vision impaired, it's significant. It's not easy. And we're here to help support and to show that it can be done, with the goal of creating role models for the future, role models with many people that have been able to do this, and then turn around and show others what path they took. So that somebody young coming out of high school or in high school, even middle school, who's wondering, what does my future opportunities look like? They can see people that have taken on careers and studied in things like engineering and biomedical science,
Hmm.
in law, in advertising, in a whole range of different fields that aren't traditionally where somebody with a vision impairment is thinks about going.
When I graduated high school in 1994, I wanted to go study chemistry, and the biggest challenges are not the actual. For me, it wasn't just going to school; it was the people, the professors, the department, who would see a person, see me just as for my quote unquote disability, and would think, oh no, you're better off studying accounting, or you're better off going
Hmm.
to a different career track. And I was like, no, I want to study chemistry. I'm going to get my degree, and I'm going to be one of the highest grades in this class in your degree program. And even throughout my career, I was, I encountered supervisors or bosses who wouldn't see past that. Many cases
Hmm.
when I would start a new job, even like the one I had at NIH, I had a boss who told me, "I wish I would have known you or seen you, and known that you had low vision, because otherwise I would not have hired you."
Hmm.
And so, building your mentor network is an amazing thing for our community of people who are blind and low vision, because it shows that there are different possibilities in each career track.
Hmm.
what you want to do, you can do it. And also helps provide them the tools, the mentorship to how to respond to these challenges and how to self advocate.
So true. I mean, I refer to it as getting the benefit of the doubt. And so often when we walk into a university or into a job interview with a cane, we immediately don't have the benefit of the doubt. The person on the other side of the table who has the admissions or the hiring decision often is thinking immediately, how can they do this job? They're not thinking about what skills is this person going to bring, or how are they going to look at my problems in a different way. And what the intent here is to shift that dynamic. In the general population,
Mhm.
we want somebody to look at somebody with a vision impairment or any disability as simply tackling problems from a different perspective, and to demonstrate enough times that we have that benefit of the doubt walking into an interview or walking into the room, that okay, I if somebody has made it through a 4-year academic school or even a graduate program and they're vision impaired, think about the skills that they must have acquired and be able to bring to an employer to do something that's that hard. Where most employers think that there's no way in the world could they, I've talked to so many people on the way who have said, wow, if I couldn't see, I couldn't do anything. And they just have that mindset. So to be able to create the expectation that people with vision impairment just bring a different way of tackling the problem, and to get that benefit of the doubt right up front, that I'm talking with somebody who's going to bring great value to my institution or organization by even sitting down in an interview with them, and approach it with curiosity rather than with this sense of this sense of not understanding how they're going to be able to do a job or function in a university setting. These are the barriers we're trying to break down, and we're trying to break them down through creating successful role models out there in the community one by one, and then getting them out into the workforce and into the big world. Our tribe is pretty small, and with Team C Possibilities, it's all about supporting the tribe, working together, allowing each individual to excel on their own by creating a supportive environment for them to be vulnerable and to have those challenges in order for them to develop their own abilities.
And as the tribe gets bigger, we create more evangelists so that we can change this perception in society, and the professional workforce, moving away from the fear-based. A lot of people who are sighted tend to put their own fear of being blind. In fact, that was rated as one of the top 10 things that Americans fear the most is losing their
Mhm.
vision. And so if we can shift that paradigm, that way of thinking, to more of an open-minded thinking of like problem solving, unique way of tackling challenges. This person who is visually impaired has built a repertoire of skills that are unique around their disability, but can be readily applied to the job.
And especially as technology changes, it's less and less about having to use our visual sense for the simple task at hand. Technology is getting better and better and better, and technology allows us to tap what's inside more effectively. And that's the real key for the future, is how can we use technology to get those ideas, to get those thoughts, to get those new concepts that have never been explored before out, and it's an even playing field for everyone, vision impaired or not.
Well, think about what's happening right now with COVID-19 and all the physical distancing that's happening. A lot of people are working from home.
Mhm.
Folks who, are trying to get used to the remote work, working from home. But we, as people who are visually impaired, for us, it's we're used to working with this technology, and adapting to this new normal has been very different for us than our able-bodied friends, for example.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, think of Sunu Band. The technology is fantastic. What the Sunu Band allows somebody to do is function any time of the day or night, whether you can see or not. If you consider most sighted people, they really can only function when the lights are on. And this is exactly the type of technology advances we're talking about with it, with the Sunu sensing technology. It doesn't matter whether you can see or not. You're getting the same sensation back, and you can tell what's around you and your surroundings. And it's that same type of technology that we want to leverage all across the board. And who knows what's going to come out in the future? But we know as humans, we're pushing beyond the boundaries of what we can perceive by sight already.
But with this new normal that we're living, things have changed a lot. There's also the effect or the pressure on our mental well-being, right? And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about as your experience. You're out there, you're doing physical activity, you're training. How has this impacted your day to day?
Yeah, it has had a significant impact, as it has with everybody, I believe. Um, Oftentimes, when I train, I'm training with a guide. Now, of course, within physical distancing, having a guide becomes a significant issue. The idea of training indoors when all the gyms are closed make it a challenge. Things like that are significant. And I'm a fairly social person, so I do like to be around other people from time to time. And that's a challenge that all of us face, sighted or not sighted. You know, so this world has put a lot of challenges. Now, I'm fortunate; I have a fair amount of workout equipment at home, my kettlebells, Concept Two rowing machine, a spin bike, things like that here. So I do work out at home as I would have in the past. But it does create challenges. The way I found to overcome some of these challenges of isolation and feeling alone, and it's a very vulnerable feeling too to be alone, is I reach out often to my friends. I'm texting, WhatsApp messaging, calling. I call and actually talk to people a lot more than I did in the past because I'm not seeing them face to face. This idea of just picking up the phone and just giving them a call, I find that tremendously rewarding. It's allowed me to spend time with my family and some of my friends in ways I haven't done in years, which I think is a strong benefit.
So using technology, social networks, I think we've changed in how we use it a little bit more now. Video is being used a lot more. They're saying that Zoom video conferencing, which we're using right now, is actually uh,
Mm,
being more used right now than Facebook.
yeah.
I read somewhere, some floating articles around on the web about this, which is great because we're having more connection with people. Uh, Instead of just sending messages on a social network and just sending a text message, we're actively trying to connect and talk to people, which is fantastic.
Yeah, one of the great things I found, a couple great organizations out there, USABA,
Hmm.
Association for Blind Athletes, it's a Paralympic committee for blind athletes. They have Facebook workouts. They're also running a program to stay fit while at home, doing socially connected workouts. So there's some really good resources out there too for those who are blind or vision impaired to stay connected. And the opportunity to make connections in this world now by doing something like that is fantastic too. We might meet someone new.
Yeah, by the way, I mean, like, especially now, I mean, I'm not training for a marathon or anything like that, but I still like to be active. I still like to get outside or try to if possible, go for a walk or at least have some form of activity. My Fitbit has
Hmm.
recorded the less number of activity I've had since I've owned it. And so,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that we can do? You mentioned the remote workout. Some of the gyms are offering this. I know Planet Fitness does. What other things would you recommend? So that we could stay healthy and active at home.
Yeah, I'd tap into like USABA,
Mhm.
their Facebook page and their website, where they have some great programs on there for staying fit and staying active. Um, One of the other things is just about being active. It's just about moving. And depending on what we have, some have workout equipment or things like that at home, others don't. Just the idea of getting out for a walk, just the idea of with proper social distancing and staying safe, just getting out and moving around. And in some sense, taking the time that we have and realizing that everyone's in the same situation right now. So oftentimes, many blind and vision impaired people are home. Oftentimes, the unemployment rate is ridiculously high. Well, if we look at that, the unemployment rate for the entire country is ridiculously high now, blind or not. So we're in it together along this way. Now, the challenging part for being blind and vision impaired is, I don't know if you're like this, but I know I definitely am, is I get around by feel a lot. If I'm going to the store for groceries or something like that, I'll touch a lot more things than most people do. So we do have to be more careful with that. That
Definitely
is one
have to
thing
be
that's a
careful about that.
challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember first when I was going to the store, I had to pick up things because normally that's what I do. I pick up things,
Hmm.
I try to get close to it, read the label, being low vision. I noticed that when I was doing that, I was freaking a lot of people out. People were looking at me like, with strange eyes because I mean, like, why are you putting that back? You should take
Yeah.
it. Oh, it's going to be contaminated now.
Hmm.
So now I've had to do some hacks and tricks to get around the store, to avoid freaking people out. I think that now is an important time to have a little bit more patience and kindness toward other
Hmm.
people who are in the store, because how we act and how we behave really helps everybody, and
Yeah.
it starts with us.
Well,
um,
some of these changes too that are going on with, for instance, having people pick our groceries for us, at least the majority of them, and deliver them actually to us. If you think about it, some of the things that are going on now, these are tremendously helpful for the blind and vision impaired community. Think of the work that MAVVI does, and think about where we fit right now in this COVID crisis with having home delivery of groceries and having it just be a standard practice that almost everybody does. It's no longer now a special thing that somebody who can't drive themselves or get to the grocery store or can't read labels has to do. The way we had operated for a long time in getting assistance with certain things like this is now the norm. It's the way everybody operates. So it's a way of feeling more involved, more engaged. When I hear people saying things like, wow, I had to have somebody pick all these things up for me because I couldn't go to the store, because I'm quarantining myself or XYZ. And my thought is, yeah, well, yeah, cool. Welcome to my world, because
exactly.
I've been doing that for years because I can't see the label or know exactly what I'm picking up. So it's a way of seeing it as being together with other people, and hopefully it fosters a little more understanding moving forward.
That's a very good thing, because we should
It
be
is.
helping each other more as a community, regardless if we have a disability, and helping our neighbors out.
Yeah, exactly. It helps us be a community.
So Dan, what is your putting your futurist hat on, thinking about, now 3 6 months down the road, even a year from now, what does the future look like?
Yeah, it's interesting. So what I do right now mostly is my work involves investing, a lot in companies and organizations in the developing world, Africa, Central America, somewhat in Asia, and going to continue on that, as well as the philanthropy side of what I do too. So as we go, it's such an uncertain time. Nobody knows how things are going to open back up and when we're going to slowly get back to normal and what that new normal is. Hopefully, we can take a lot of the positives that this has created. The isolation, as you mentioned, has created a lot more community, whether it be online or friends or neighbors doing more things for each other to limit exposure. And that's great. And I hope that that's going to continue. For me personally, I'm looking forward to getting out to be able to actually train and run with friends and guides standing side by side with me again soon.
Mhm.
Hopefully, that will come back around in the next couple of months, and we'll see. We just have to take things day by day. And I do love the fact that I'm much more closely, tightly connected to a lot of old friends who I hadn't talked to in years or even decades. And one thing I'd bring it back to, and I think we can use this for years to come, lots of people in the blind and vision impaired community, as well as many others with disabilities, cognitive and physical, they've been socially distanced for years, for decades, because of just being uncomfortable and going out by themselves. So hopefully, this concept of social distancing brings awareness to the struggle that many people in our community have, even without the physical distancing requirements.
That's a tremendous motivator. Dan, as always, it's always great chatting with you. I always learn so much when we have a chance to connect and chat about stuff. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate being with you. I always love our conversations. And yeah, my final thoughts are keep doing what you're doing. I mean, this is a time when all of us are challenged. And it can be a time of great equalization of ability because we're all dealing with struggles that we never expected to be dealing with. So now it's a time for those in our blind and vision impaired community to feel a little less isolated and feel a bit more normal in society as everyone's facing these challenges. So take advantage of this opportunity and let's try to stay positive and make the best of what we can and look for the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. We appreciate you being on the show.
Oh,
This
no,
has been
thank you.
Thank you. This has been a special episode of the Hummingbird. There's still quite a lot that we can do, even at home, staying healthy and physically active. It's a matter of coming up with creative solutions and reframing our attitude and how we interact and engage with each other in community, just like Dan mentioned. So be safe. I hope that you guys continue being well, and we'll see you in the next show. Thank you.